All right, guys, nice to meet everybody. My name is Scott Matthews. I own and operate a real estate investing company. We'll get into it. But today, we're just going to talk about off-market real estate and how do you get your first off-market deal. So just by like a quick raise of hands, how many people have done an off-market transaction? All right, so a good amount. And how many of you are actively marketing for them? Okay. All right, so hopefully you guys learned something about this. So like I said, my name is Scott. I own a company named Kodiak Partners. We're based in Lakeview. We used to be uptown. My partner, we've been best friends since college. We actually tried to wholesale when we first stepped out of college about 12 years ago, I think now, and maybe 10. And I lost 10 grand. It was the only 10 grand I had. I bought a list. I did direct mail marketing. I didn't know anything past buying a list, and leads did come in, but I couldn't convert them because I didn't know how to make offers. I didn't know really what to say to sellers, and there was one deal that I actually did get, well, I almost did, and I had it sold to a buyer for a $7,000 commission, and that back then that was everything. And what happened was I told the seller that I was not buying it. I'm going to have this guy buy it, and they obviously decided I'm not going to sign the contract. So we're going to get into signing the contract first before you talk about all that stuff. Today, we operate in 9 states, primarily in Louisiana, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. My partner is based in PA, but we've done deals in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Arizona, and Nevada. So we can talk about some of those types of deals, and most of the stuff here is single families and multifamilies. Everything out in other states is typically only multifamilies. Started wholesaling in 2020, right around COVID, when the market was very unsure at first, and then it was awesome. Every property was selling within 15 minutes. It's not like that today. Bad deals were going. It was awesome, to be completely honest. And I don't think we're going to go back to those times. But so we've done about 310 transactions or so since then. And today, Kodiak primarily buys rental properties. We do a lot of BRRRRs. We buy multifamily. We do a lot of creative financing, and we obviously wholesale. And the reason why our wholesale company is still stood up and operates is because it's a means for us to find our own deals. That's the biggest reason why we do it, but that's not why we started it. When I first got into wholesaling, the most important thing that I realized was if you have the deal, you have all the leverage. That's why if you're a realtor out there, they say listing agents last and buyer's agents typically do not. Obviously, that's not in every case, but the reason is because buyers will come to you when you actually have the deal. If you're out there chasing things all the time, it's very hard to make consistent money. And even in this game, it's a lot of ups and downs. But when you have the deals, you can kind of make the rules. And I realized that if I can find off-market deals in any market, I can always make money. So if you know how to go out and actually find deals, you can absolutely make money because there's always someone out there who wants to buy it. As long as you're looking in markets where people are actually buying, which is the North Shore, there's a lot of people looking out here, South Shore, West Bank, all of these places. If you find a good deal, it doesn't matter if the market is up, down, or sideways, someone is going to buy it from you and you can make money. But you have to have the ability to go out and find those deals, okay? And like I said earlier, wholesaling is a great way to make money, but the most important thing is being able to find the deals. It's your foundation, basically to a consistent real estate business. The first step in wholesaling is obviously marketing. All the channels work. If you're on YouTube and you're reading about this, how do I find deals, networking, direct mail, they all work. But if you're just getting started and if you don't actively market for these things, which it seemed like 3 people are actively marketing for deals, you need to just pick one and just be really good at that for now, okay? You just have to pick one. We start off with SMS marketing. It's just text messaging, right? Everyone looks at their phone. You're on your phones all day long. people will respond to a text message about selling their property. You're going to get a lot of other messages too, but text messaging works extremely well, and it's very cost effective. We use a company called Launch Control. If you want to go out and use it, you can absolutely get it. Lead Sherpa works too. We used to use them. They shut down for a couple years, but they're back. Launch Control is something we use. It just allows you to send a lot of text messages every single day. You send thousands a day, and obviously it's more expensive the more you send. Cold calling. Everyone's heard of it. No one wants to do it. We have a cold calling service out in Egypt. We have a team of them that are calling not 24/7. They're calling during the work days. But the biggest thing with cold calling, if you were going to hire a cold calling service, and a lot of people have done this, if you just hire a service and you just let them send you leads and you are not proactive with staying on the callers, they need to be managed just like employees. You will waste so much money and you'll just get a bunch of average leads all the time. You need to stay on them. And it took us a while to figure that out. And you are hiring and firing cold callers faster than you would realize. And when you find the right ones, you need to incentivize them. You need to offer them bonuses when you close deals. They want to be incentivized because it's grueling work, to be honest. But if you keep a cold caller for 2 years, you're doing a good job. Direct mail. Direct mail is more expensive than the first two options, but the leads are coming into you. They are calling into you based off of something you sent them. So they're going to be warmer, and you're going to need less leads to actually convert a single deal. PPC, I'll back up. Yellowletters.com, you can easily do that. It's kind of plug and play. They also have they link to ListSource. They give you a deal on all the data. We'll talk about that in a second. And we use another company called Wilson Printing. They're based out of Tampa. You can just Google them. They have great customer service. You can make anything. You can send anything. And obviously, the price dictates how many letters you sell. PPC, we never really had much luck with this, to be honest. We did it internally. We hired someone to do it. And we got some leads out of it. It wasn't a great thing. It's very expensive, and you need to have a very large budget. So it might work in more dense markets. Didn't really work for us. But I would say I wouldn't start with that, to be honest. PPL is Property Leads. Property Leads is a company that we've used, and basically they do the PPC and then they sell you the lead. So if you just want leads to show up into your, if you just want leads to show up into your email every single day, you bid on them. Every zip code, every parish is different price. You bid on it, and they will show up for a set budget. You can set $1,000. You bid $150 a lead. They come in. Obviously, you can see that it will add up quickly, but they do convert, okay? Because these leads, for some reason, are extremely motivated. I noticed that, which is not always a good thing, to be honest. We'll talk about that in a second. But extremely desperate and motivated sellers, they really need to sell, but sometimes they're actually not the best leads. But it does work, especially if you do not want to manage cold callers or deal with SMS marketing. You don't have someone that can do it for you, like a team member. Property Leads kind of just shows up, and you will definitely get deals out of it. I think the first 2 weeks we did it, we landed a deal, we made $30K, and then we went dry for like 2.5 months. So, we made money off it, but it's not something that we rely on. The first 3 are absolutely something we rely on. Social media ads, it works. Everyone's on social media. Film yourself saying, I buy houses, testimonial, stuff like that. You'll absolutely get leads from that, but it's a lot like the PPC. You get a lot of the same people clicking through there, actually. TV and radio, I've never done. And then referrals are obviously the best deals. The biggest spreads are off of referrals. But you actually have to be in the game every single day if you're going to get referrals, and you need to be doing a damn good job for people to refer you again, especially if you're buying a property. Wholesaling is not much a referral business, because you buy a property from a seller, that's probably the last time you hear from them, unless they have an aunt, uncle that kind of going through the same thing. So those are the channels of marketing, right? Very basic. How do you reach out to sellers? The most important thing now is you need to understand who are you reaching out to, right? You need to get the seller data. All of the data across this state is public record. You can reach out to all of these people. And we use ListSource and PropStream. Okay? If you use ListSource, get a yellowletters.com account. It's $97 a month. And then the leads are 3 cents a lead off of ListSource. If you don't do that, it's like 12 cents a lead. It's a huge savings. So for $97, it's worth it. And then PropStream is only, I think we pay $500 a month, but we get like 50,000 leads a month. So it's a lot, but you don't need that many. Okay, you can start with the lower package. It's $100 a month for 10,000. So you go directly to the source, and you can find all of the data that we're soliciting on a regular basis. And you could start here. You could go to a different state. It doesn't really matter. You can go to any of them. Okay. Now, what type of data actually converts? It really just depends on your exit strategy. So if you're a wholesaler, or you're trying to wholesale, you want to make your first 10 grand wholesaling, you need to probably find a property that needs some work. You need to find a property that has some equity. Typically, properties sell every 7 years or so. So going after people who have owned a property for 7 years or longer. Value, especially in this area, $300K and below. I don't know why it says $300K plus and below, but it's $300K and below. You can even do $250. Avoid $1 million houses unless you're a listing agent and you want those leads. You could do this as a listing agent. You could go out and solicit all these people, and I don't do it, but I know people who do it, and you can get big time listings by doing the exact same thing. It just depends on the data that you are buying. So to go back for wholesalers and flippers and real estate investors, pre-foreclosures are decent. Probate is probably the best, to be honest, because if someone inherits a property, and especially someone who inherits a property who does not live in the state, it's kind of like finding change in your couch, more or less, because they do not want the property in most cases. They usually don't know what to do with it, and they haven't invested their money into the property, right? So if you buy a property from a seller who bought the property for $100K, he at least knows he has $100,000 and whatever else he put into it while he was owning it. Someone who inherits a property, it's kind of just like, okay, cool, I can get $100,000 out of this property, I don't have to touch it. Those are usually the best deals. Divorce can be messy. We just did a divorce deal with Miss Jean over there, and she saw firsthand how messy these types of deals can be. Tax liens, there's surprisingly a ton of people that have tax liens on their property. It's a huge list, actually. Vacant is great, but it's really hard to sort by. Absentee owner, if you guys own rental properties, you're all absentee owners. Not a great list, but after a certain point, you kind of need to hit everybody, right? Because what this doesn't say is the most important thing about finding deals off market is timing. Timing is the absolute most important thing. You could hit a person 50 times and they might not be ready to sell until the 51st time, and you hit them and they say, okay, I'm ready. Okay? But when you actually do hit someone and you realize that they are selling this property, whether it's to me or to somebody else, it's time and they're going to sell this property, you need to act on it. Okay? I'll give you just a quick story. 2 years ago, we did a deal. It was an apartment complex. It was the perfect timing for this guy. We knew he needed to sell, and we knew he was going to sell. It came across our system. He wanted $2 million for it. We knew that was a pretty good deal for $2 million, and we went out there, shook his hand. We offered $1.8 million, I think, $1.825 or something like that, and we didn't just hand him the contract and said, okay, he's like, yeah, this sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna think about it. Cool. A lot of people, what they'll do is they will just say, no, he's gonna call me, he's gonna sell it, absolutely. We hounded this guy for 24 straight hours till he signed that contract, and he did. And we sold it, and we made a bunch of money. It was great, but that's not the point of the story. A year later, I'm in a room with an investor, and we're talking about this deal, and he knew it. He knew it he was like, you did that deal? He was like, the day that you locked it up. My partner was at that property, and we offered $1.8 million, $25,000 difference. My partner swore to me that this guy was going to call him, that he had it. He just needed to sleep on it. He swore. He's like, no, we got this in the bag. It's all good. I find out the next day he signed with someone else. He had no idea it was me. And a year later, that deal, honestly, kind of carried us through that summer. This was like 2023. It was a huge deal for us. And the reason I bring that up is because that guy would have went up past our offer if he just called the seller. He didn't know, and he just slept on it. He just said, I'm gonna let the guy, he'll call me back. And I have every salesman that comes in my office, they wanna do that because it's not normal to bug the hell out of people. It's just not normal. You don't do that to your friends and your family and you call them and text them all the time when they're not answering. It just is weird. So if you do that to a seller, it kind of feels unnatural, but unfortunately, a lot of these sellers are in bad positions financially, things in their lives, whatever it is, and they're gonna kind of operate the same exact way with their deals. They are going to push it off to the side, whether it's fear or whatever the case may be, they need to be pushed. Okay, there's obviously past a certain point they're just not gonna sell and they're gonna tell you, there's the door. That's fine. However, you're gonna lose deals if you do not push for a contract to be signed. All right, so you bought a list, you started marketing, leads are coming in, what do you do with it? Well, we use a system called Podio. It's completely built out for our business. You do not need that. What you need is a spreadsheet, and you need to make sure you document all of your leads that come through on a daily basis, and you need to have statuses and know exactly what's going on. If I turn to someone in my office and I say, hey, what's up with this deal? And they don't know, that's a bad sign. You're not gonna get that deal because it's hard. It's hard to get someone to sell their property cold solicited for a huge milestone asset in their lives. But it's done every day. So you can absolutely do it. You just need to know exactly where you're at with every single lead, and you can apply that to every business, prospect, buyers, whatever. You need to know what's going on with your lead at all times, and you need to stay on them because eventually they will either sign or they'll tell you no. People don't want to tell you no. I don't know what it is. They'd rather say, yeah, that sounds good, I'll think about it. And then someone goes home, he's thinking about it. No, he's not. He said no, right? He just didn't want to say no. It's uncomfortable for people to say no. So you're just looking for the yes or the no. And the no is just as important because then you can stop focusing on that lead and move on to the next, right? So as leads come in, the obvious signs the property needs work, the age of the owner, maybe they've owned it for 30 years, they don't want it anymore, they made their money, they just want it off their hands, obviously inherited like we talked about, and then maybe out of state. You're gonna get those things from your leads. That's about it. You're not gonna get much more than that. So it's your job to call that lead and basically go through the list and talk to these people about what's going on with them before the property. The property is important, but what's going on with the seller is so much more important than the actual property. And once you talk to the seller, you understand, all right, they're gonna sell this property and they need help. Whether it's I'm the guy to do it or not, I don't know, but they are absolutely going to sell this property. So I can either help them, I can refer them to an agent, or I could buy their property from them. One of the two, okay? If it checks those boxes, you need to meet the seller at the property if they're willing to meet you. If someone's willing to take the time out of their day to go to a property, especially if they don't live there, and let you in, walk around the property, they want to sell. Like you're getting there, you're close. You meet them at the property. The worst thing I've ever seen with wholesalers is they walk in, they take a bunch of photos, they go, all right, cool, I will be in touch. You might never get that guy back on the phone. You might never see him again. And every person in our office is told to bring a contract and close in person. And it's uncomfortable to make an offer, especially as the low ball, but we're always throwing out something and seeing where they land. If they don't have a price, you got to start somewhere because I promise you they do. You throw out a price and you go, I don't have a price, man. Okay, how about 100K? No, man, I can't take less than 200. Okay, 200 is your number. You just didn't want to say it, right? You have to start somewhere, and you have to push to make the offer in person. And it's a game. It's a sales game. And the biggest thing with wholesaling or locking up deals off market, it's more sales than actual real estate. The selling is the most important part. If you can sell, or if you know someone who can sell, and you can provide them with leads, you can absolutely do this, okay? Sometimes you just run into stuff. Hey, I want 100K. 100K works. Okay, cool, let's do the deal. It's rare, but sometimes you gotta haggle a little bit, try to get the number off. But the reason why people do this is because they value something more than money. In every case, sellers know they can get more than what I'm offering them. They just value their time back. They value not having to deal with it anymore. Maybe they just need the money fast. I don't know. But they value that over getting top dollar and dealing with all the things to put a property on the market. I sell properties on the market. I get agents yelling at me and doing all these things, and repairs, and buyers are upset because they didn't know that the roof needed to be replaced, all of these things. A lot of people don't want to deal with that, okay? So that's why this works. Now, probably like, how do you make an offer? If you're just getting started in real estate, you're probably unsure how to make an offer, especially for a wholesaler, which means an investor would buy it from you. This calculator, we give it to all of our guys. We can give it to you if someone wants it. It's very basic. But basically, you need to figure out what that property is going to be worth when it's fixed up. That goes for commercial, multifamily, flips. It goes for everything. You need to know what the property is going to be worth at the top of the market. Okay? In this example, the property is worth $175,000. Okay? It's in fair condition. What does fair condition mean? Most houses that you're flipping, they need flooring, paint, maybe countertops and appliances. That's $35 a square foot. It adds up. It's $35 a square foot in most cases. In this case, 1,200 square foot house is $42,000, okay? That's what it's gonna take for me to get my property to sell it for $175. This calculator assumes a 25% margin. That is not always the case, depending on where you are based, depending on how much money an investor wants to make. But 25% in a strong market, Covington, most of the West Bank, all Jefferson Parish, if you can get 25% margin to somebody on a house that only needs 40 grand, someone's going to buy that from you. Now you got to bake in your fee. We always shoot for 20K. We don't always hit it, not even close. Last year, I think we averaged 15.5. This year, I think we're over 24, but that's more multifamily stuff, different than flips. We always shoot for 20. That means I'm not offering more than $69,000 for that property, okay? That's gonna eliminate a decent amount of properties. So you need a good amount of leads, and you need the right property. Now, would I pay 75, even 80,000 for that deal and just make 10? Of course. But you have to start somewhere, right? You have to have some idea. So it's a good guide when you have a lot of leads coming in to kind of start and just throw out a number. Throwing out a number is huge. Every time you get someone on the phone, you got to throw out a number and understand that they are either wasting your time or it's worth your time. Those are the biggest things. So you make multiple offers before someone is going to accept it. Obviously, you don't make one offer and boom, you made 20 grand. It doesn't happen. You got to make a lot. However, when you do make an offer, someone accepts it. But if they do not sign the contract, you do not have anything. You cannot just let them sit on the contract. They want to bring it to their attorney. They want to talk to their sister. They want whatever. That's fine. They all have something. You give them enough time, but you need to push. And you need to push past a certain point. You need to tell them, hey, look, I need to know that we're doing the deal or not. And that's it. And you can, the longer it goes, like I said, there's a good chance that they are not going to sell that property. It will go cold, just like any other lead. So once you lock it up, you can go put it in a Facebook group like this one and if you locked up a good deal, someone is probably going to buy it. There's a lot of bad deals out there. You are going to lock up bad deals. That is guaranteed. We lock up bad deals all the time. Because sometimes we think, oh, well, maybe. Seems close, you know? But you don't, that's not the point. The point is, it's a numbers game. More often than not, it's a numbers game. And you need to never talk in absolutes with sellers. You need to disclose to them that this might not get done, right? I'm going to bring on a partner, an investor, whoever I'm going to bring on. Now, we buy a lot of our own property, so it's different now. But when I first started, that's what you have to disclose. If you're not there's no chance you're buying it, you should disclose it. You should. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm not even connected to the internet. Did I need to be? You have the internet? The Wi-Fi?
It's weird how it just went all of a sudden.
Sorry, guys. We're almost done here. All right. Hotspot.
Yeah.
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 What's the password on that?
If you need to hop online, you can.
All right, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah, it's not.
Buy anything.
I like slept on my neck money the past 2 days. So, horrible. Can go to work.
Dude, I don't know where the fuck. I sent it to you, didn't I? Yeah. I don't even know what you guys are looking at right now, but.
PowerPoint needs internet now? That's crazy.
What the fuck, dude?
Right.
Alright. All right, sorry about that. All right, so basically, if you're buying seller data, right, you can buy buyer data. So every time an investor buys a property, whether they bought it in an LLC or they paid cash, all of that information is public knowledge. So you can go out and find all the people who are buying properties on a regular basis in your area, whatever zip code, parish, whatever you want, you can buy a list and you can solicit them. So if you have an actual deal, putting them in Facebook groups works sometimes. I don't find that the most serious buyers in a lot of Facebook groups, to be honest. And building your list takes time. The important part about building a list is eventually you can partner with these people. They can fund your deals, which we've done. We've partnered with them. We've obviously sold off deals to investors. And the better you build your relationships with your investors, do not sell them bad deals. Because you're going to get investors who don't know what they're doing, and they're going to ask for your advice. They're going to say, hey, what do you think about this one? I can make a few dollars by selling it to you, but if you're looking for this, I'd rather you buy this. I'll just wait till I find something, and then they will come back again and again and again. So many wholesalers burn bridges with buyers by keeping their deposits. Stuff happens. It sucks. Sometimes you have to just let the buyer go. They will come back around for you. That's the only way to stay in this business, is by doing right by the investors who are more or less feeding you. All right. We were talking about this earlier. Borderline deals do not sell off market anymore. Okay? You need to sell a good deal. The price isn't everything, though. Terms make a deal. If you guys are investing in real estate, seller financing is huge. Seller financing is huge with off-market deals because you have direct contact with the seller. Trying to do seller financing with realtors involved is so much more complicated. You're trying to explain it to them. Half of them don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes they understand bond for D. They definitely don't want to talk about sub 2. All of these things are so important by, one, building wealth in real estate, but two, with off-market deals, you can explain this to people who, more or less, they're not going to be able to sell their property either on the market or to any other investor unless they offer terms. And terms, especially today with rates being where they are, it honestly has made a ton of deals for us by just being able to take over someone's note, and you can either rent it, you can flip it, or you can bond for deed to somebody. You can owner finance your owner finance deal to somebody else and collect the difference every month. And it's like owning a rental property without having to pay the insurance, keep up the property, no maintenance, nothing like that, and you get a down payment up front. Avoid deals in the middle of nowhere. You know, the further you get north, the harder they are. There's just less buyers who want to deal with them. Not saying you can't sell them, but they are much harder to sell. Get your deal, whatever it is, in front of as many people as possible. Do not cherry pick your deals and call up 4 buyers and say, hey, I got this deal for you. And if they all turn it down, you cancel it. Every wholesaler does it. They want to take it to an investor directly because they think it's going to be easier. You have no leverage. Investors want the deal cheap as possible, I promise you. But it needs to be out in front of as many people as humanly possible so you can actually have a chance of selling it, okay? If you take it to a friend who buys properties, I promise you, anyone who buys properties here, you probably buy in a very small niche. There's probably only a few areas and types of properties that you will actually buy. You will not just buy across the state, I bet, because it doesn't make sense. It's hard to manage. It's a lot of moving parts, right? So spread the deal out to as many people as possible. All the data is out there. You can get it. Like we talked about earlier, you're going to lock up bad deals. We all do. And the gauge that I always tell my guys is, if I would buy the property, I bet you another investor would be excited about it too. If I'm not excited about a deal, God damn it. If I'm not excited about a deal, then not saying it's not going to sell, but there's a good chance it won't. But if I'm stoked about a deal, best believe someone else out there is going to buy that from us. All right, conclusion. Hope you guys took away something from this. It's not easy, but it's also not very complex. This is a very simple thing. It's buy the data, solicit the data, sell. And once you have a deal, I promise you people will come to you. They will. You just have to find the deal. Okay, step number 1 is market to an asset class that you want to buy, flip, wholesale, whatever. That could be single family. This works on multifamily. The spreads are much larger on multifamily. So if you are looking for the big spreads, I mean, who isn't, I guess, but they are more complicated. Obviously, the sellers are tougher, and there's less of them. There's way more single families. Make as many educated offers as you can. Do not just throw something at the wall, because if you half-ass it, I promise you're not going to get anything. Follow up with everybody until they are absolutely ready to sell or they tell you no. Because if you could get a no, it's actually just as valuable as getting a yes, in my opinion. Put a contract on a property. Do not do anything until you actually have a piece of paper signed. People will backdoor you. Sign the piece of paper. Always decide your exit strategy. You can do it once you have it under contract. We do that all the time. Sometimes we buy it, we get it under contract. We're like, all right, we're gonna flip this, and then someone offers us enough where it's worth it to just wholesale it, right? Or maybe we buy it to flip it and then we keep it as a BRRRR. Doesn't matter. To be honest, I'm not a very good flipper. I've sold deals to so many better flippers. They do these beautiful jobs. Our flips very average. The reason why we're still in business and they work is because we're getting them for so much less than what everyone else is paying. And if you don't do that, you have to be razor thin on your margin. You have to be damn good at what you do. But if you can combine both of those things, God bless. And repeat it for cash flow. This is a cycle. We do it every month. Every month, deals come in, we buy them, we sell them. And you actually have a real business. And their income. Wholesaling is just income, so we can turn around and buy the properties that we really want. And we didn't start that way. We didn't have any money. We just were dumping it into marketing every month. Now we can actually buy some deals as they come into your portfolio. And the biggest thing with wholesaling, it's fast money. Okay? You can do one deal and make $50,000, which is insane to say, without a ton of work. Now, it doesn't happen every day, but you can. And the biggest thing to realize is reinvest it into marketing, and reinvest it into real estate. Don't buy the car. I have a lot of friends who did that. They're no longer wholesaling, I promise. Don't buy the car, don't buy the watch, don't buy any of that stuff until you've actually established yourself and you have an actual machine. That's it. Questions?
What got you in out-of-state investing?
Out-of-state investing was, we were strictly looking for, I'll back up. We did an analysis on the deals that we did. And single-family deals, we were averaging $15,600 per deal. But multifamily, we were averaging $32,000. Now, this was in 22, okay? We realized, all right, multifamily, there's much larger spreads. The reason being is because a flip, everything is real tight, right? Everything is tight. But a multifamily, if I send a multifamily out in a desirable market, I can just be slightly below market value and it's going to go, right? Especially in a desirable area. Flips are not like that. They're razor thin margins. So the negotiating is harder. We started marketing here, we expanded to Louisiana, and then we realized, okay, all we need to know is what's the income on the property? This is what we can offer. You can't really do that with a flip. You know, it's much harder to wholesale flips from afar, but you can wholesale multifamilies from afar because give me the rent roll and I understand the cap rate and I will push it out for below market value and someone will probably jump. And that's really what it did. And then we tried a bunch of states, but Arizona has been the best for us, to be honest. There's ton of competition, no doubt. But when you get a deal, they go like that. Like people, yeah, like $500,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses, cash. Like these guys come in, I don't know where they have all the money from. California people, I guess, I don't know. But they have way more money than people do around here. So it's worth exploring if you're gonna do bigger stuff. Strip malls, stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite marketing channel?
SMS, for sure, for sure.
Is your goal to get them on the phone with SMS or just text completely and then set an appointment?
So basically how it works is text goes out, they respond, sure, whatever, yes, maybe, cool, a manager will be in touch. Click a button, it goes into the CRM and it goes directly into our system as a new lead. Get them on the phone as fast as possible because then it comes in, especially if you're just starting, it comes in, you can call it, hey, you were just talking to my assistant, Jessica. Yeah, what's going on? It's so fast. You already know they're by a phone, right? If this sits overnight, chance of them answering is lower, for sure.
Question to piggyback off of that. So how have you develop or fine-tune your scripts for when you get them on the phone?
So we have scripts. They're pretty basic, I would say. We don't overcomplicate the scripts. The biggest thing that I would tell you is you get anyone on the phone. If you feel like they check any of those boxes that we talked about, you need to just keep them on the phone for 20 minutes. Set your timer and look. You might fall short, but 20 minutes is like you've built enough rapport. You need to get these people to say your name back. Hey, Miss Barbara, this is Scott. Remember me? Yeah, Scott. Okay, say it back. Scott. Okay, cool. Because they're getting so many calls, right? So many other people are calling, but then they just drop the ball. They don't set the appointment. They don't go out there. They lowball her right away. I don't know what people are doing, to be honest. But she needs to know who Scott is if she's going to do a deal with me, right? That's what the 20 minutes is for. That's the most important thing.
Where can you find the buyers list?
Same place, PropStream, list source, right there. It's all there. You just need to change the criteria a little bit. Maybe look for people who bought a property in the last year. Maybe bought it in an LLC. That'd be a good start. Maybe bought it. You can click cash, but most people aren't buying cash. Like some are, but like especially multifamily, people are taking loans, right? Like we take loans for the most part, and we're actively buying. Like I think the cash thing is kind of like irrelevant, to be honest. Look for LLC buyers and then people who are not living there. They have a different mailing address from the property address. That might get you there too. Go ahead, man. Oh, sorry.
Subject twos and lease options?
Yes, never a lease option, because I think you have zero control over that. Bond for deed is, it's definitely stronger than a lease for sure, but we absolutely do subject to. Last year, our absolute best deal, we bought 10 units on bond for deed, and we put zero money down. And it was just because, and it didn't start out that way. We had it locked up at $100,000 more, and it was a straight sale. But it just came down to the fact that he just didn't want it anymore, and we negotiated that, and it was great. But it only starts with spending time with the seller. Me and this guy talked probably 50 hours by the time it was all over. John had a lot to do with that one. he was tough. But and then subject to deals are great. Just make sure you're not assuming people's debt on a deal that you can't get out of, right? There's so much subject to talk around that people are just, I'll take anything subject to. But if you have zero equity, and I took a property subject to, and the seller called the loan on us. She called the bank like 6 months in. She was like, I don't want this in my name anymore. I'm like, that's what you signed up for. But luckily, we had enough equity we can refinance it out. And we came to the table with a little bit to cover the difference. But like, if you buy a bad subject to deal and they call the loan, like you could be screwed. And to be honest, you're kind of screwing the seller, because it's going to fall back on them if you can't come and cut a check on it, right? So make sure you're going to do it for a deal that you can actually get out of if you had to.
So know your exit plan?
Always know your exit plan, yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned something about 10,000 contacts to start in the beginning. What would be your success rate for 10,000 contacts? What would you expect out of that many?
If I had 10 actual prospects from 10,000 contacts and I closed 2 of those prospects, I'd be pretty happy with that. Some months will be better than others, some months will be worse, but I think if you had 10 actual people that really you thought could work, that would be enough for us. Yeah.
How'd you come up with Kodiak and have you ever been?
I've never been. My partner thought it sounded cool. So there's literally nothing to it. And I get that question a lot, and I wish I had a better story for you. I wish he was here to explain, but yeah.
Can you explain the numbers on the
on the slide that you were showing with the, it's like, I don't know, the property value, 170 something, and then you had your 40-something thousand of repairs, and then we think it's 69,000.
Right.
I couldn't follow that.
Sure. Okay, I'll explain it. So basically, it's like the wholesaling calculation. It's the most basic thing in wholesaling. Understand the top number, right? The 175 is what the property is going to be worth when it's done.
Okay, so you're saying that this property on the market, fixed up nights, is going to be worth 175?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Now, I need to work in the profit for the investor, right? So in most markets today, when the market was really hot, you could offer 20% margin, okay? Which means I'm just going to back out 20%. Today, it's not as hot. Things are doing okay. I'm going to back out 25%, all right? So that number, I'll do the math. So if I get 175 and I back out 25%, that's 131, all right? However, most of the time, in order for me to make it worth 175, I need to put money into it, right? So right off the bat, I'm going to back out my construction cost.
Which was that 42?
Which was the 42, which is on average, an average flip is about $35 a square foot if you're not doing anything massive, right? So if you spend 40 grand on a 1,200 square foot house and you do floors, paint, and maybe like countertops, appliances, about 40. I think it might you might have one more big ticket thing in there, maybe like you tile the shower or something like that. So I'm going to back out the 42,000, and that's going to get me down to $89,000. Okay. If I was to send this property to a flipper in that neighborhood at $89,000, he should buy it. Like hypothetically, he should buy this property at $89,000. Now, if I go on the market and there hasn't been a damn thing that's sold for under 100 grand, he's definitely going to buy it, right? So I'm going to factor that part in too. But how the numbers should work, because he might be able to do the construction for 25. He might have a full crew. I don't know, right? He's going to buy it for 89. I want to make 20. I'm going to offer 69. Does that make sense? Cool.
Who are you making? So you're making that offer of the 69 to the owner?
To the seller. Yeah. So I'll come in. I'll say, hey, based off of this, this, and that, I can offer you $65,000. I'll cover the closing costs, no realtor fees, nothing like that. He'll go, no, I want 90. I don't know. Well, okay, well, we're close, and then I'll start to work my way up. And then we'll land somewhere, and I know that I can sell this property for $89,000. So even if I pay 80 for it, I might make 9. 9's a good day.
Because if he's under the assumption that other properties were worth $175,000 at that square footage in that market, we all know that sellers have these grand expectations. If you don't know that, if they do.
Yeah.
But
right.
Okay, so he's thinking that he's not even putting together this 42,000 plus the 20 to 25% margin in there. He's not even thinking of that. So that's the knowledge you're trying to bring to him to make him understand.
Right. So first things first, you have to let them know that this is a for-profit business. I'm not going to buy this property, flip this property to break even, right? So if I was going to put 42 grand into it and you think it's worth 175, I can't pay 130, right? I just can't. I'm not going to make any money, right? So I'm going to more or less walk around the house and I'm going to tell them, look, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. But the biggest thing I would advise against, do not bash someone's house to them, because for the most part, they're actually just more embarrassed than anything. Some cases they don't care, but in a lot of cases, people do really care. And if you walk around their property and you're like, "Oh my God, can you see this?" and they're like, "Yeah, I own it. I know," and I see a lot of people do that. It's sad, but you just need to talk frank. Hey, this is going to cost me 40 grand on average to fix this property up. I can offer you this much. Period. Like whether you take it or not, it's not a personal thing. It's just a numbers thing, right? And then I'll decide what I do with it after. If I go, hey, I'll give you 65, she goes, okay, cool. I'm going to buy that property. Now I have an extra 20,000 baked in, and I know that it's worth 175. That's a good deal. But you don't get that if you're not actually talking to the seller, right? Because a lot of times people will say yes. They will.
Because they need to get rid of it. And
They value something more than money at this point. That's it. I don't know what it is. It could be a million things, but they're valuing it more than money. People know that their properties are worth more than you're paying in a lot of cases. They're okay with it, especially if you give them white glove service, you're super friendly, you do everything, you let them leave a bunch of stuff in there. I see so many wholesalers that don't even have websites or reviews or anything like that. You can go on our website, you can read all the reviews. You know, like we get good reviews. Sometimes people get upset with us, but for the most part, we're not hiding behind our reviews, you know, like, and a lot of wholesalers do for some reason. I don't understand that, but.
Because they don't disclose.
They don't disclose, yeah. They don't care who buys it, you know, like.
Is there a strategy or a way to determine ARV if you walk into somebody's property and you look at it and you're like, oh, this needs to go, like you need to demolish this property.
Yeah.
So you're left with basically land.
Right.
Plus the cost of the demo and the haul away and all that. How do you determine, or is there a strategy to determine what the ARV will be?
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is now you're comparing your property to two things: land comps, if you have any, and two, new construction. New construction always sells for higher dollar per square foot. That's why it's not comparable to a flip. You cannot use that as a comp. And you just need to find some new construction comps in that area. Doesn't have to be the neighborhood. Ideally, you would like it to be, but if some areas don't have new construction comps. We're going through that right now in a property in Avondale. There's a hole in the roof, and they left the hole since Ida, and we didn't know. So we locked it up. We went out to the property. I was like, dude, this is a teardown. Like, everything is swollen. The floor collapsed on the second floor, and there's no new construction in that neighborhood. But if you kind of jump a neighborhood here and there, be a little more conservative, and then do the exact same thing. Take out 25%, take out your construction cost, and that's how you know how much you can offer. It all comes back to that little equation. That's it, on everything. For single family, not multifamily. But.
Are you sending that PowerPoint to Cole?
Yeah, we can send it.
It would be out.
Yeah. Cool.
What are your thoughts on the sheriff's sale?
I've been to them. We've bid on stuff, and I think you can absolutely get deals. The only difference is, for the most part, you never get into the property, unless you're willing to break in, which I've seen. I've seen people do while I'm driving around looking at the property before the day of the sale. I saw a guy one time with a hood snapping down the thing, and like he broke in and he checked it out, and he knew more than the next guy did. But sometimes you get deals because people are not willing to take the risk, and then you buy it and you go in, you're like, wow, this place is clean, you know, happens. But to be honest, when you have so many deals coming through your pipeline every single month, it's just too much. I can't go to the auctions. I can't look at stuff on the market, and I rarely look at stuff that wholesalers send me. I'm like, well, if you're gonna, you know, I bet you I can find a better deal. And that's how I think about it. But if you don't want to do this or have the time to do it, then yeah, I would do it. I would go to auctions, for sure. Yeah. Hey, Gene.
Yeah, in your case, please, what types of employees do you hire and how do you compensate them?
Yeah, so we have 5 full-time employees. Everyone's on salaries plus commission, except one person is fully commissioned. We have 4 full-time salesmen, me and my partner, and we have a admin who we pay hourly. In terms of how much they'll make as salesmen, I've seen them make as low as $60,000 a year, and I've seen some of them make as high as $250,000 a year. It kind of just depends on how good they are. And obviously your commission split for them, right? So guys on salaries make 10% commission. Guys not on salary make as low as 20, then they get bumped to 25, and then they can We had a guy that was making 30 at one point, but highest is 25 on wholesale deals. And then every deal that we buy, we assume a $20,000 margin. So they'll get just compensated off of, if we wholesaled it, we made 20, and we'll pay them accordingly on top of what we bought it for.
You mentioned this at the beginning, but how often do owners either back out or try to back out when they find out you're not the end buyer?
No, never. They'll back out for some other reason, but it's never that. No one cares. You know, like that's never happened actually in all the transactions. And we've seen a lot of stuff. I've had buyers not show up the day of with deals that are contingent upon another deal. So a seller's selling 2 properties and we have 2 buyers. One doesn't show up, so we have to go in and buy a property we didn't want. We've had to do that. I had a sellers back out for weird reasons. It's usually money. Someone got in their ear and said like, hey, I'll give you this. I've had buyers go around and do that. But the thing is, you know, if I signed a contract with somebody, they can't really do anything outside of that. I can't force them to sell it to me, but they sure as hell can't just go and sell it to somebody else.
But you disclose that on that phone call with them or on that appointment?
No, so basically what happens is we will, once we get far enough along, like we're making the offer now. Like, and then basically how I explain it is I look, I may be buying this property, I may be bringing on a partner, or I might be bringing on someone that I'm partnering with. Those are all 3 options that we've done on every single deal. We'll decide what we're going to do. Regardless, it doesn't affect your money. That's it. Very simple. You know, if you get into the whole wholesaling thing, you might just confuse somebody. You know, they'd be like, well, look, I don't want to do this. You know, like, no, I swear it's good. No. You know, it's, yeah.
The whole too much information
Yeah,
thing.
because you know way more than they know. You know, like you're just going to confuse people. You don't want to do that. But
Don't lie to them, but
no,
at
you
the
just,
same time, don't tell them the details, right? Yeah. Makes sense.
Confused mindsets. If you have to cancel a contract, how do you go about that? What's that conversation like?
as simple as we call them up. We tell them, hey, look, we're inside of our inspection period. Unfortunately, the numbers do not work. We brought 10 investors to the property. None of them can make the numbers work. It doesn't work for us internally. So we're either open to a new price, we'll absolutely talk about that, or we're just going to give you the cancellation. But you have to preface it on the front end, like, hey, this isn't a done deal until I tell you it's a done deal. Now, something could happen after that, and then we are on the hook, and we've bought properties that we don't want. It's happened. But we are very, very, like, if you start, this is a done deal, we're gonna get this done, blah, blah, they're counting on that money, right? And if you pull the ripcord for somebody, they're gonna be pissed. You can't do that. I think that's what some people do. They get overzealous, they get excited. You know, you can't do that. Hey man, look, I'm gonna do everything I can to get this done, and when I have the green light, you'll be the first to know. So don't do anything different. Don't buy a car, don't kick your tenant out, don't move, don't do anything until I tell you. And then once I have them locked in, deposit, then I'll say, all right, look, we're good to go. Like, you can make your plans now. And I'll let you know in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that's the number. Go ahead, Steve.
Do you own rentals outside of Louisiana?
Yes.
And how do you operate there? Is that a property manager? Or do you own a remotely?
Property manager for some. My partner is in Pennsylvania, so we own stuff in New Jersey. So he handles that. I handle the stuff here. And then where we're both not, we have a property manager, which is good and bad. I prefer to have control. PA, New Jersey, and Louisiana. But we own stuff in Shreveport, so it's too far for me to manage. So, yeah.
Time for maybe one more question. No, we'll try to wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. For those who want